Good night, good night, good night. Oh my God, we way late tonight, folks, but short, sweet, we here, we made it. This is what happens when you change locations. Summer comes and set up the new studio, and a new place for all the stuff. And when you have two StreamYards and you go on the wrong email, then it sets up the other one, and I sent out requests and things, but I started the show on a whole nother StreamYard, so that puts us here, and I understand there was people looking. I'm going to put the link to get into here for all the people out there who may be trying to get in, conversate tonight as we get to start. But anyway, welcome to the Fatherhood Think Tank. Tonight we have tonight's just, I was thinking today, yesterday, about the shows we've been having have been very hard and heavy. And when do we have some fun and light type of Fatherhood think shows? And so coming on the time and about Father's Day, I thought, hey, let's have something that is enjoyable, something that is lighthearted, something that can give us some, at moments, I believe, we give us some good memories, some good thoughts, and maybe some hints to our children and what we would like to be seeing during that Father Day shopping engagement that's going to be happening in the next couple of days. So again, welcome. I'm Dr. Ron, the curator of the Fatherhood Think Tank. I want to definitely welcome the fathers that are here tonight. I already did well enough production of who I'll do it at the end of the show. Let me go ahead and get these guys in here, introduce themselves, and let's get on with this conversation.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Ed Tenney, father of three grown adults, granddad to two girls and a boy, and as always, I'm happy to be here and be a part of the conversation.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Or good evening, gentlemen. My name is Lionel Lightborn. I'm a father to a tribe of 7 young adults, 3 young women, 4 young men, 1 granddaughter, and 1 grandson. And I'm just excited about this Father's Day weekend and to see where the Lord take us.
That's what I was thinking. So let's get, I'm gonna point directly straight to you, brother Tenney, because you have the longest stretch in this game, in reference to being the father, the longest of us who are here right now, and I really, one of the things I, thinking about, hey, what is your favorite Father's Day gift? I'm thinking of, hey, I'm sure you have had some very interesting gifts that you got for Father's Day, or maybe that might have been the interesting part about the gift of how it was and what it was. So I let you lead off here with our first kind of conversation of the night is, what is the most interesting, when you think about Father's Day gift, what are, and being that you have 3 kids, it might be a different one for each of them, or they might have got together. What do you say about that? What do you got for me for that?
I guess I kind of almost downplayed Father's Day. I don't know. I just felt like I don't know. To me, the significance of it, not that it diminished or changed throughout the years. I don't know. I just put so much focus on honoring my wife on Mother's Day that getting the occasional card, the little cars that they would come out that would play music. I think if I were to look back on when my kids were actually young adults, college age, my youngest son himself play the guitar, and they did like this really endearing, the three of them endearing song, and put it on video, and it was the three of them just kind of singing a melody to whatever Luke was playing, and it only had "I love my daddy" as far as the words, and they were just repeating it over and over. But it was such a cool thing to watch them get together and literally sing a song and recorded it. And I have it to this day. I rewatch it oftentimes just to, when I'm in my feelings and I, want to see them do something that was memorable. That I would say would be my best Father's Day gift. But I never really put any pressure on them to, get me anything. I think as they got older, the biggest thing that they could do for me was let me barbecue. Let me barbecue, let me feed you all, let me enjoy myself, let me do what I love, cooking for you guys, and let me prepare a meal. You don't have to take me out. I don't need to go to no restaurant. So Father's Day became more memorable because they allowed me to just sit around the grill and watch them. I enjoy watching them, interact with one another. That would be my biggest joy.
So it almost goes to say, in many instances, a lot of what you appreciated was the small thing. Well, a lot of times I think that is a big point of, because you know what, I think that we understand that they can't really get us anything. They can get us something, but they can't really get it. They can't go out and get a new Lamborghini for us and say, "Hey, Dad, here's a Lamborghini." But they can, use their ingenuity and their love to kind of like make kind of things that will fill your heart up probably more than a new Lamborghini could ever, because that Lamborghini can fade and crash and not have anymore. But what they could be able to show you in the initiative of making a song and really being unified to, show love to their dad is something phenomenal. And I think that's a great, I hear a lot of people a lot of times say, and I think this is a selfishness that many times people have, is I don't want anything. I just want you guys to be around. I just want you to be with me. And it sounds like, but it is we take it for granted that it's something that people get. It seems very easy. Seems like something that can happen. But a lot of times when kids are, even they still stay in the house with you, they have a lot of other things and they start focusing on their life and things going on them. So they kind of forget about you in that capacity. And so just to be able to say, hey, I would just like all of you guys to be here with me or be around or let me be able to do something for all of you together, not individual, because you know how that individual stuff works. You do something for the one, then the other one be like, yo, Dad took me to the song. Dad took you to so-and-so. Why you take me to so-and-so? We and dads quickly have to try to maneuver that. So Tenny, I want to thank you for, putting this out in the beginning and really start thinking about it and how it operates. Lightborn, what about you? I know you had many experiences of Father's Day, at least about 6 examples.
You hear that, Teeny? Just put my business all in the street. Just I got 4 baby mamas. I should have some interesting Father's Day. But no, even as a and I'm gonna be blunt, even as a baby daddy, now husband, I think some of my greatest gifts was when the children of my mother respected me enough as a father to remind or help their children celebrate me. That's a great gift within itself, because it breaks down so many dynamics and so many disenfranchisement that I may have caused myself as a father, having 4 children from 4 different mothers. But the fact that they respected me enough to make sure that my children contact me to say Happy Father's Day, then that was like a double gift for me, because it not only showed that my children appreciated me, but it also showed that the mothers of my children appreciated me as well as a father, even if they didn't agree with me or like me as a companion. So that was just on so many different levels. But then as I grew older and I started investing more in my children, and as they grew older, even with my I want to say stepchildren, because I never called them my stepchildren, my children, my wife's children. My oldest daughter, who we're probably not seeing eye to eye now, but she paid me one of the greatest honors, because I got her first, because she was in journalism in school and she always wanted to be a writer. She's a phenomenal writer. And I got her first gig right out of high school. And she was working for a local hip hop magazine. Some friends of mine had a hip hop label called Icons. They made a few hit songs out here in South Florida. And she was writing for them. And she had a few publications. Matter of fact, she's so good, she made the Miami Herald the front page twice. That's how good she is. She wrote for a Jewish historian, young lady who really favored her after she passed, and even left her a gift that she never went to pick up. I told her you should have went to pick that gift up, especially if you don't know what it is. But nonetheless, she paid me the greatest honor when she was writing for a local black newspaper out in Miami called the Miami Times. And they did a big fatherhood piece, and she highlighted me as a father. Even though I'm not her biological father, she highlighted me as one of her inspirational fathers. And it was a real nice way to just really honor somebody, especially getting that type of honor, that level of honor for a child that's not biologically yours. And so I think some of the greatest gifts I've received as a father, and just specifically for me, because I ain't trying to, we ain't being selfish, but we're saying specifically for me to honor me as a father, didn't necessarily come on Father's Day. It came on days where I was just being a father, and my children took the initiative that turned into an incentive for me. So it's amazing how when your children can take the initiative to do something for you, how it become an incentive for you as a father. And I think that those were some of the most priceless gifts. I can think of so many different scenarios, but I'm going to stop right there, and I'll let you pick up on, share your story, Ron.
Well, myself personally, I can only think of a couple fatherhoods. I can only think of a couple Father's Days that that would be memorable to me. I don't have that many as you guys have. And I think a little bit like Tenny, I would like to maybe have a certain type of Father's Day. And gifts aren't really a big deal, a big deal in many senses, you really more likely want something to really resemble what Timmy's talking about, that the kids show the kind of welcomeness and to be involved, and the kind of appreciation that you don't really find in a normal situation. You kind of don't, just not like hey, we're gonna take you on I seen some people just today. I was flying back in, and I seen some people with their dad, right? And you could tell it was their dad because it was a guy, his wife, another guy, really like might have been the older son, organizing everything, and then there was like a younger guy, so like three sons, and they were there, and the dad said something to me, and we kind of had a brief word, but he was talking about, you could tell that he was, going somewhere with his children, and in that sense of going somewhere with his children, was it seemed very joyful, like a happy moment, happy time. Now, we don't know I don't know what he was coming there for. I didn't ask him, but you could tell that they were a family with their dad traveling together, but there was no mother there. And so I thought about it as Father's Day, so could it be bringing them here for, who knows what reason? Because he was saying, oh, imagine this going to be happening in Philadelphia, this and that, So, it is a difficult thing, and I know for a lot of fathers like myself, a difficult Father's Day. I seen a interesting post, not even a post, but like this video on social media, and I almost wanted to keep it, but I don't keep too many of those things. Like, hey, what a narcissistic father does on Father's Day, and he's sitting there and he's kind of saying, oh, can't wait till my kids come. I know they're gonna call me this, kind of this whole thing, and I felt like as I watched it, and the person who was trying to make the video, it seemed as if they was trying to be, smart, aleck, make a joke about the fathers, or maybe the father being more like a deadbeat or something, not really being involved. But what it did show me is that within that whole video, the person kept saying, I know my kids gonna call me. I hope that, can't wait till they call me. Can't wait to go. So that my old theory, this idea of, and I think both of you guys said this, fathers need their children as much as children need their fathers. And the benefit of having another parent or co-parent who understands that and not make their situation with you as an adult complicated for the child with the other adult. And that happens. I mean, it happens in all types of situations. And I think, like when you said it so clear, that showed that they had a certain love or maturity or whatever this thing that these women had to not do that, to make sure their children, even if they didn't want to, didn't know to, demand them to, hey, go reach out to your father. Today is Father's Day. Today is his birthday. To do it. And to say that, oh, they don't want to, and they don't think to, and they don't plan to me, that's a cop-out, right? Because we don't allow children, and let's be very honest, people don't let children do what they want to do when they're children. You tell them they got to go to school. They say, oh, I don't want to go to school. You don't say, okay, you get to stay home. What reason would a child, I mean, and again, I've seen cases when I think about children who have been abused, children who have been neglected. I'm talking about real abuse, real neglect, and those children still want to reach out to that parent. They still want some involvement with that parent. They still look for the love from that parent. So how in many of these cases, I know a lot of you guys out there may be listening, why, come Sunday, you may not even hear anything. You may not even, you might even call, you may even call and can't get through. Maybe no phone call response, and those kind of things happen. So I would say that you have to also remember that they're still also children, right? And not all of it is what they want to do. It might be what they have to do. You know, so I know in many cases some kids, I think even in the case that the child doesn't want to dishonor one parent to be with another parent, right? And so and that all goes on what's going on and what the child is exposed to, what they know, who's exposing them to these things, how's it operating, what does it look like. All of that goes into, you know, what, when you think about how to operate. So I say stay vigilant, celebrate yourself on Father's Day. Not in this arrogant way that people would do, be like, I'm a great father. Take the time to reflect on what your fatherhood looks like and what it is and what it's not and what you would want it to be. Because I always say, I'll stay steadfast on this. From 0 to 18, we think it's very important to teach and guide our children and raise them. But I think children need way more guidance and teaching and raising from 18 to 28. When they are really facing the most crucial moments that determine what the rest of their life ends up being like and who's guiding them. You know, a lot of people say, hey, 18, get out my house and you on your own, you're an adult. Well, that's crazy. That's a phenomenon, but it's also crazy because you're throwing somebody out in the world that, you know, they don't even know nothing about because you'd have been the one controlling their whole world. You know, you have controlled their whole world and you send them in the world and say, oh, you go make your own decisions. You don't. This viewpoint should be they go out into the world, live, and know that they have wise counsel, wise support from you 100%. If you agree or disagree with some of the stuff they plan to do, but you can always tell them that, hey, here it is. Here are some of the outcomes. What do you say? You always want to have that person sitting at the table, and every table you want to have a person sitting. You can be that person. I'll give you the money. Listen, I'll give you the money for that. I'll give you the money for the thing you want to do, my son or my daughter. But here's what my idea in thinking about it is. And I go to old Cat Williams joke. I could buy you those Jordans. We could go down to Payless and you can get 6 pair of shoes. The ones that slide, the ones that light up, the one that have the wings on it. And you can just have a whole, same thing about the game. You want a PS3, a PS2, whatever it is, I can go take you down to the pawn shop and get you a Nintendo with 36 games. You know, and so that idea of presenting, because our children need to at some point know how to make certain choices and decisions. And whose role and responsible is that? A lot of times it's us as fathers. Mothers will make those decisions, they will do it, but it comes very different because a lot of times they're coming into a world that the person who they're making decisions and the consequences will come from men who are like their fathers. Or men in general, not their fathers, but men. Let me be very clear. Men are the ones who are making these decisions a lot of times in our society. Where somebody will say, you give him a chance. Other men say, we ain't give him a chance. He should have came prepared. He ain't come dressed. He ain't a shirt and tie on. He didn't have no haircut. He came here looking any kind of way. You think we're going to give him something? For our young ladies, nothing is free. So don't think that because you're pretty, you're going to come in there and smile. They're just going to give you everything. And it's all gravy. That stuff doesn't happen either. Sometimes there's a lot of, I almost be careful what I say. A lot of unethical people in this world who will present options that are not something that you may want, but they know it's something that they're offering that option that's something you don't want because it's something that they want. And you read between the lines if you understand, but that kind of stuff happens to our young ladies. And sometimes to our young men, but mostly to our young ladies. And they have to compromise some things that they shouldn't. And then who do they get to talk to about it? You know, I know if daughters come and talk to me about something like that, I'm going to tell them firsthand, you don't need to do that. I got to connect. I get you another connection. You don't got to put yourself in that type of environment, because you put yourself in that environment in the beginning, it's going to go on and on and on. And then you might get comfortable with that kind of environments. And that's your next job and the job after that. And then, you know, how do you get to sometimes live with yourself because you was trying to live better, have a better life. So that, you know, that's a long explanation, but it's one I hope that benefits fathers who are a lot like me, who are in the same types of situations. They may not be having, they're not on Sunday. They don't know if they're gonna get a call or not get a call. They don't know what's going to happen. But they stay diligent in what they do. When birthdays come, they call. Christmas come, they call. The holidays, special things, they give their part. They present and say, hey, I'm here. If you need me, whatever you need. But you can't make, you know, at some point, you can't make somebody respond if they're not responding. Some people tell you can. You should. I've heard people tell, oh, you the father, you should go over there and do. I'll tell you, brother, that sounds nice. But if you got anything to lose, I wouldn't do it. If you got anything to lose, I would just take whatever they say about you, whatever they do, and keep yourself safe. Because once you get caught up in the fish net, you might not never get out to sea. Let me say that again. If you get caught up in the fish net, you may never get out of the sea. So you just got to be careful.
I don't think fatherhood appreciation or fatherhood gratitude or gratefulness comes by way of intimidation. I think that a person being appreciative or grateful for you comes by way of inspiration, and that's the fact that you can sow enough inspiration, because I mean, it's just a stereotype that men are not good at remembering stuff, and that's not, especially important things in the life of any relationship where they got, whether it be the life of their spouse or the life of their children. And so, of course, you know, that's a stereotype and a misnomer that's played out in media and different sitcoms that have father as the comic relief, or use fatherhood as a comic relief, that it's expected for us not to remember the important things in the lives of our children or our wives, which is totally a fallacy for me, because my oldest son is 35 this year, and my youngest daughter is 22, and for all those years they'll tell you he never forgot. And so I think if you do enough of never forgetting, and you sow enough never forgetting in the lives of your children, or guess what, in the lives of anybody, then that will eventually reciprocate in your life when it comes to those important days. And it may only be two. It may be just be Father's Day and your birthday. But I'll take either or. I give them one for the other. If they remember my birthday and forgot Father's Day, good. If they remember Father's Day and forgot my birthday, good. I'm good with any way, with with either of it, rather, because I didn't sow for that reason. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I didn't sow expecting reciprocations that will benefit me. I sowed expecting a reciprocation that will benefit them, right, to be better. And then as they become better, then that embetterment will benefit me, if that makes any sense. Mm-hmm. And so they honor me, and the greatest gift for me is for them to become their best selves or their better selves. And that's what I'm honored. And guess what? that's a fatherhood gift that can happen daily, monthly, yearly, or whatever the case may be. Because just to see them in good standing, just to see them become good men and good women is the greatest gift of all, as far as I'm concerned. So that's how I see it.
That's an excellent way of articulating that, Brother Lightborn. Just the blessing, the reward, the just being able to see uh, them doing life and doing it well. Man, it's just I'm actually, honored to be able to witness that, and I guess that's why um, it was so important for me as they were coming up as young kids to sow into them, as you said, Brother Lightborn, as many good memories as possible. Moral memories, fun memories, ethical memories, stuff that I get to see them now as they do their life, seeing the rewards of sowing into them what was sown into them, and it's very encouraging um, just to be able to see that, and very rewarding. That is an excellent way of articulating that, Brother Lightborn. Yeah, I, I guess I almost don't necessarily need a specific day to be rewarded. Just being able to see them all, I'm so proud of them all, and being able to watch that and witness that at this age is just awesome.
Mm. And I think that so often I don't think that people really think about, like, the commercialism of Father's Day is minimum, right? Minimum at most. But I think the mental capacity of Father's Day is very high. Like for example, I thought about this recently, how Father's Day has to now, for many of us Black fathers in the community, has to be shared with Juneteenth, right? So people might be more festive in celebrating Juneteenth, and then Father's Day is coming up, we get some of that on the back end, Juneteenth, right? And you can't imagine that they would put any holiday around Mother's Day. They wouldn't have something that's going at the same time as Mother's Day. Not as a competitive thing, just that it will be highly thought about because there is a high regard. And I think you said this yourself, Tenny. You thought more about what was going on with your wife, than what was going on with you. And I think that is a natural progression of how we operate in the manosphere. We think more about the other people. I'll be okay. Well, it's fine. I'll be good. Because I'm getting what I really need. And I think this is a big part of what people don't understand is, and being able to understand men who are mainly fathers. They are getting what they need by being that provider a lot of times, are being not just a financial, because I think that people think, he want to provide and give all the money. No, you don't. It's not providing is not just about financial. It's about being able to feel that a child can wake up in the middle of the night and come into the room and say, I feel now safe that I'm in the room with you, Dad. That I'm in here with you guys. Regardless if it was lightning, a nightmare, something else going on in their life that they hadn't told you about, just to know that father can make them feel better and make them feel comfort and within any kind of situation. And that's a big part of what, a lot of times we're not really looking at. Sometimes we're not even, presenting to the world in some aspects. So definitely thinking about that. My next question is, since we went there, my next question is one that, what was, if you can think of a process and think about because I love to talk about transgenerational stuff. What do you remember, or what was the time or the thing that you remembered best about your father in Father's Day? If there was any correlation, a gift, a experience, a moment, um, something that occurred, you know, that relates to you now being a father and how that related to how you think about that in reference to this experience that you had with your own father around Father's Day.
Oh, that's something, because that's a whole different dynamic for me. Because, and I think I'm what they call it, receiving the repercussions for something that or for a child that I may have been unconsciously, because I think socially, women are always seen rather, or it's popular to see women as, I want to say needy. I want to say like vulnerable, and to be protected and provided for. And because of that, I think I always had a bias that my mother may have needed more than my father did. And then to a certain extent, my father may have not needed anything at all. And so I may have disregarded his humanity and the fact that he really had feelings and stuff like that, that I didn't think were real, right? Because if you make your dad this superficial Superman, like most of us did, or you make men this superficial Superman, then we'll tend to disregard their emotional or psychological needs. And so when I could have said a whole bunch of things that could have really added to his humanity and the integrity of him being a good dad, because I did have a great dad. As a matter of fact, I had a great dad and a great stepdad, so I was double blessed. But I think even with both situations, I think I treated both great men less than great, if that makes any sense. Because I was conditioned to treat them less than great and not give them the compliment that I thought may have rescued my mother more than it would rescue them. As a matter of fact, I don't think in some cases, I didn't think the compliments would have even rescued my dad like it rescued my mom. And so, not saying I never said anything, thank you, or showed no type of appreciation, because I didn't buy my dad gifts and stuff like that. But I think I could have gave him, both of them rather, for the lack of a better term, more priceless gifts had I really expressed to them what they really meant to me at the time, and how much impact their roles in my life played on my life. So, but I always showed gratitude and stuff like that. For the most part, I was always a respectful kid. I remember my stepdad paying me one of the highest honors, and he went to his grave saying this. He said that I never said, he said, never. And I mean, he used to brag to people about, not me, he used to brag to other people about this, his own kids. He's like, man, he never, ever said disrespect me, not one word or deed, never. He said, all the years I know him, he never said one, we never had one argument, he never disrespect me. And that man, my stepdad, went to his grave saying that. And once I came into the knowledge of that, and I valued that knowledge, then I made sure that he would go to his grave, never being dishonored by me. Well, then my dad can say the same thing, because I was able to, by the grace of God, I was able to accomplish some things he didn't accomplish. So he didn't get to graduate high school, but he got to come to my high school graduation. Not only get to come to my high school graduation, he get to witness the fact that I was the president of the whole school. And so that the fact that all of that things, and it's not so much that he asked for it. I think on that particular day, graduation for the most part, and graduation from a kid is the ultimate gratitude for a parent, right? I think that's why we make such a big deal to it, because I'm like, yeah, make a big deal out of it, because graduation for a child is a child's way of showing gratitude to their parent. And I was able to show gratitude to my parents because I had my dad there, my mom there, my stepdad there, and they, in the school I was at, they funded the whole thing. So we eating on Key Biscayne. They got ice sculpture because we was the founding class of that particular school. And then coincidentally, your son is the president. And so I don't even think they understood the magnitude, and I don't think I did at the time, of how well God had blessed me to honor them within that particular moment. Because when they was like, wow, I didn't know my son was doing all this. And I was like, the truth of the matter is your son didn't know either. I just wanted to honor them with something. And I think once I graduated high school, that was, I guess, the ultimate gift I can give both of them, and the ultimate gratitude I had within the scope of my capacity to give my both parents. And my dad was, man, he was so proud. You could just see him up there with a little suit on and everything. And you heard me, Tinny, just coming in there, because you know the older generation, they come up with their little suit on. And he just came and he was just sitting there proud, gleaming from ear to ear, and didn't really say much. I could see the gratitude or the magnitude of the gift within their smile in their face. And so I know, even without them saying anything, that I had done well, just in that particular moment. So that's just so many different ways to really give your parents, mothers and fathers Day gifts. I think we give it better on the days that it's not Mother's and Father's Day. I think the days just is Mother's and Father's Day is more symbolic, but the sacrifice starts on the days either after or before leading up to Mother's and Father's Day. So I'm gonna leave it right now.
Well, I remember growing up with my dad. We kind of celebrated at his favorite restaurant whenever we had a chance, which was Red Lobster, so he could order himself some shrimp. And I do remember enjoying those Father's Days where it was just the four of us, my sister and myself and mom and dad. You know, we'd go out and celebrate Father's Day. In my adult life, we spent most of our years in separate states. They were in Texas, we were in Florida. But I made sure that he would get the traditional card, but I would also make sure I would call him. And I guess it felt, there was a different feeling calling him as an adult, because I was to him as a father, being a father myself. And I really wanted to acknowledge him, you know, being my dad, by making sure I would call early, because I knew that he woke up at, you know, 4:30, 5 o'clock, like clockwork. Even when he was retired, he was just that type of guy. So I could call him at 6:30, 7 o'clock on a Father's Day morning and know I'd be able to reach him. But it's kind of hard to explain as an adult. There felt much more of an intensity in reaching out to him on Father's Day, and it actually made me feel better to make sure that you know, I reached out to him, let him know I loved him, because even though my father was one of those I guess you could say, strong silent types. He had his vices, smoking, drinking, and stuff like that. But man, my dad stayed there. He he uh, uh, he was there, and I never ever felt fatherless or anything like that. So um, it actually gave me good feelings or warm fuzzies to honor him in my adult years, to let him know how much I appreciated just him being there for me as a dad. So that um, it, the later years was probably more for me than it was for him.
Wow, that's
Well, we definitely want to hear you, Ron, because you got a fabulous relationship with the father that you still have. So please indulge us.
well, I mean, the indulging isn't. And listen, I'll tell you something that is Father's Day, and here is a paradox within the idea of having the relationship that I have with my father at this present moment. And it probably comes from us being two men at this point, versus being the idea of a father son, right? Growing up, being and I would say not disconnected from my father, because I was connected to him, but he was not present because I wasn't where he was at, right? So if you're not, one of the major conflicts with people is they'll say, oh, well, there's a difference between a father who lives around the corner or lives on the other side of town and a father who lives in a whole nother part of the country, right? And so a big part of that, and that what makes it difficult, because if you had a father who stayed around the corner, there's a likelihood that he would just come to your house. He would do certain things. He could come to your school and pick you up. He could do those kind of things. And if that's not the case, it would be up to whoever's around to give you this theory about what it looks like for that to be a father. So I will say, and I'm always transparent, that I have many father figures. So when we talk about fatherhood and having fathers, I contribute a lot of my nature to my father, but I contribute a lot of my nurture to the father figures that I had around, being that in his extension. So there was an absence, not because of an absence of, and I won't even say an absence of not wanting to, it's just sometimes, and I think that we don't think about this, there's an absence a lot of times of not the ability to even be. And I hear people hold accountability to people, be like, well, if you got kids, you should do this and you should do that. And I think that's if you have the privilege to do so. Not everyone has that same privilege. Sometimes they don't even have the same opportunities. They could do something. And then I've known that people would turn around and say, well, why did you do that? We had a lot of incidents with fathers we see doing things, and then people say, why did this guy do this? Why did that happen? Why did he just do this? Because, a lot of people kept telling him, why wasn't he doing anything? And that's pressure. I think that can become pressureful on you. So I think about now, the men who was there, and I wrote this in my, I always like to say this, just so people know that I'm not a fake doctor, that I'm a real doctor. In my dissertation that I wrote in the foreword, the acknowledgments and all that, I wrote it was dedicated to the father figures and my father, not to just discount them, because those men, I had 3 stepfathers. I learned something different from all of them. I had some other role models that was involved, in relationships. that was there. And then I had, then I have mentor types of people who were father-like and who had nothing to do with my family other than just with me, who was a mentor to me. And you begin to learn from that. And so I felt like I've been at an advantage. So when people say, hey, you seem to be a well-rounded person, you got this, that, and the other. Well, I will use this African proverb. There was a village of men who contribute to who I was, with the foundation based on who my father and his biological nature, who he is and what's inside me. So, it's funny because I'll say when we think about Father's Day, me and my dad probably will get together. We'll probably go to a Juneteenth thing, and that'll be part of our Father's Day activities and this and that. And sometimes we give each other gifts, just in giving, but that's not a big part of it. I think that our relationship of having a man who, yes, he says he has all kinds of things he likes to tell me. He suggested, he believes that I don't listen to it too. He has this idea that because I think I know everything, I don't listen. And literally, I do listen. You just may not know that I'm listening. You may he may not pay attention and observe, because a lot of times people tell you stuff, but they don't go and do the data to find out if you changed. I find this when you're dealing with people in relationships, they say, I want him to be like this. I want her to do this. And then you go and ask them in the session and say, hey, where did you see them change or not change? And they don't have any of them. They say, I don't know. Well, did you put a makeup? You got to pay markers. You got to look and see. Like if you said, hey, I would like you to, when you deal with me, I'll use one of his pet peeves. If you be around, don't be on your phone. Be in the time and the place with the people. Don't be on your phone. Don't be on your phone. And so in many instances, he had not even recognized that a lot of times I'm not even on my phone. He doesn't recognize it until maybe something happens on the phone and I might have to pick it up. Right? But I'm not there on the phone because I know that, quote unquote, is something he doesn't. He thinks that you should be in the space. But again, that is something as a grown man, that would have still been something that when I was a child, he might have had to still have something about. This is why I say parenting as fathers doesn't change. You might learn new things. You might do it a different way, but who you are doesn't change. And the things you like or don't like, don't switch up. And so that's why I say for young people, fathers who don't have that interaction, the involvement, engagement they want with their children right now, you can have maybe a wonderful experience with them when they're no longer when they are no longer in an opportunity of being gatekept. Like they're not in a gatekeep situation. They're out of the gate, they're outside. And so you can enjoy them on the outside and be involved with them while they're on the outside. So that's one of the things I'll just put in atmosphere. But I would say, when I look at our relationship at this present moment, it is, most people would not believe that we wasn't just raised up in the same house, taking me to school and changing my diapers and that. Because a lot of times people don't even believe that we father and son. So, because he looks so much hipper and flyer than me, and I look like an old professor trying to research project. So they're like, "Oh, y'all brothers," and we have to tell them, "No, we're not brothers." And so then he's not my brother, then that means, "Oh, you looking good for whatever age you is." Ooh, wee. And then basically that what that say to me is, I'm an old hag. So, but again, it is. I say this all to give people who haven't had and who think they don't have the opportunity, because maybe my dad didn't think he would have the opportunity to have a relationship with me that he has now. My relationship with him instills in me that there's an opportunity for the relationship I have with my own child. Maybe not now, but when the time that they can come to me free of whatever things, and they can, what I like to say is they can get their own truth. based on their own experience with me. And I think a lot of times you can't get those things when people are kind of narrating what your experience is going to be with somebody. You know, there's this idea of what experience could be, but young kids are impressionable. They will kind of like, you could have spent every day of your life with them. There's an opportunity for somebody to come in and twist that whole thing around, and they will forget all of that. And you have to be, as a mature adult, realize that, hey, you can't hold that against that kid. Because kids are kids. That's why they're kids. That's why there's a thing called consent. That's why you're that parent. You have the responsibility to up until 16. And then we know that that's not even reality, 16 to 17, because their frontal lobe doesn't fully develop until they're at least about 25 or 26.
Well, it's a common sense methodology I created myself, which is a common sense trivia. I'm like, okay, what do you call it when a child turns 18 years old? What do you call a child when he turns 18-year-old? People are like, well, an adult? I'm like, no, a professional child. So the fact of the matter, I'm like, because that's a common sense trivia. I'm like, he's a professional child. Because you just told me he's been a child for 18 years. So he's just coming out of childhood, which means he has more experience being a child than an adult. So how do you guys, we can even come to the conclusion scientifically that when a person hits 18, they're an adult? That science don't even fly. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, I was thinking about the dynamics of my dad, my father, at the time, where I only have one brother. My dad has 3 daughters and 2 sons. I was the youngest for a long time, right? And then like my sister under me, I got 2 younger sisters under me. They came later on, like 10 or so more years later on. Matter of fact, my youngest sister is the age of my youngest son. So you see those dynamics. But
hey, we got that in common, right?
There you go.
My brother is younger than my youngest daughter.
There you go. Well, you understand. I'm preaching to the choir. So nonetheless, I think my brother, and we never said it. I think we said it, but unconsciously without saying. I think my brother and I, we envy each other relationships with our dad, same dad, 2 different brothers. But we envy our relationship because we got two totally different relationship with my dad, because my brother envied the relationship I have with my dad because I had my dad in my life as a child. My dad didn't actively become my brother's dad until he became a teen, like almost teen to young adult, which is 16 and above. So he didn't really acknowledge my brother until my brother was 16 years old, which made the relationship a little volatile. Fast forward, in his latter years, my dad had a relationship with my brother that I envied, because I didn't have the relationship as an adult with my dad that my brother had. My brother, I envy that relationship that they had, because they was hanging out, talking about real stuff, having a real good time hanging out. My brother sings at a club. He was, he has a band and everything. And then, of course, occasionally he'll let my dad come and sing on stage and stuff like that. So they was hanging out as men. Me and my dad never really had that relationship. And so I envy my brother for having that relationship with my dad as an adult versus him envying me having the relationship I had with my dad when I was a child. And so, but I think as long as you accomplish the relationship, because nobody can really judge the relationship you have with your parents or your dad or whatever the case may be. Only time can judge that. Only at the end of whether your life or their life can conclude was it a great relationship or not. And so, and again, it's not for you to judge the relationship, it's for you to enjoy the relationship. And so I think I started to value my dad and my mom and anybody I deal with for that matter more when I started to enjoy them more than judge them. And that's not just It may start with your parents, but it works its way down to your children and everything. And so I think my relationships got better once I started to enjoy people more than I judge them, and that's the dynamics that I learned of just particularly relationship with not only just my relationship with my dad, but also my brother's relationship with my dad, because we also will share those stories, but we'll share them from an equitable standpoint where we'll share from what we appreciated in those relationships versus something else. So I'm gonna leave it right there for now.
So I have a question. Of course, I've had the same dad. I grew up with the same dad. What was it like having a stepdad coming up in your childhood? Um, did that color anything? How was that?
Oh wow, the dynamics change with that because you have two, like a different organism per se that's going on, right? And so you get to value the person your mama needs. That's when the stepdad comes in, because the way he loved my mom and took care of my mom and stuff like that, then it was a no-brainer. It was no competition, because you're talking about a man who was my father versus a man that was a husband. And so the appreciation and the equity was on two totally different levels. Matter of fact, they wasn't not even in the same height, right? So it was never really no competition, because my dad is my dad and my stepdad was my stepdad, but my stepdad earned his points for the patience and the love that he had for my mom, that my real dad didn't even survive it. You understand? So it was both of them are winners, because my dad is a winner because he's my dad. So he wins that championship. He will always hold that championship. He'll probably never lose it. But my stepdad held a championship of being a great husband, which is something, guess what? I never knew that I needed to know. I didn't. Who knows that? And you can't take for granted at failing at being someone's husband, or failing at being the husband of your children's mother. You understand? And so I still needed to know how to be successful with a woman. And so my stepdad was able to succeed in that arena of life as it pertained to me, versus my real dad, because my real dad had a few failed relationships until he probably 40 years later he was brought back to the original woman that he should have married in the first place. And again, I always make a joke about this. I say, well, had he married her and did right the first time, you won't be born. So, but the dynamics is and I love when God said all things work together for the good for them who love the Lord. And I've learned so much from that. So they was never in the same fight to begin with. My dad was the champion, was in the championship of being my dad. So he was never in danger of being that. And then my stepdad was never in danger of being less of the husband he was to my mom, which still earned his right to the championship he was as my stepdad. And so here I am learning two priceless, totally different things from two separate men that made me one successful. Yeah, two separate men that made me one successful man. Isn't that amazing? But Ron, you said it earlier, because you said you had different surrogate fathers that made you the type of man that you are, or the father that you are, even though you still had your father, but it was other fathers that catered to you, to give to you what your father couldn't give at a particular time. Well, the same narrative applies to me as well, because again, my father, great father, you know what I'm saying, but he was a failed husband. And then I had a stepfather who was a great husband, you understand, and that just ran over into the fatherhood, the component of fatherhood that I need to learn about, because I don't think that we really acknowledge the fact that there's a certain equity that comes along. I don't even think we acknowledge the fact that what role that being a husband plays into a father, or if it is even significant at all. And this is the reality. And I'm like, I don't think you can do away with that, because I'm like, hey, when it comes to order and or be it chronological or whatever the case may be, how important is it to be a husband as you evolve into being a father? And both evolution take place at the same time, because as you grow into love that woman, you grow to love those children. As a matter of fact, I think the more you understand loving that woman, the more you understand loving that child. But again, I think we get handicapped because we think being a father or fatherhood is its own island, and it's not. It's a companion to being a husband. And what does that look like as the whole picture, as opposed to having half the picture?
I have a very unique experience when you ask that question, Tenny, in reference to what did those father figures or stepfathers do. I think one of the key points of, and I say this to a lot of people a lot of young people right now who are young, non-married parents. Like you become parents based on sexual interaction, and now you're parents with a person that you didn't even have a real relationship with in some capacity, right? You had a relationship, but maybe not that kind of, we're starting a family, long term, I want to be with you. Or maybe you may not have been doing that, and they might have been thinking, that might have been how you end up having this baby. But long story short, as I think about what each of these stepfathers presented was a marriage to a wife, right? They were more there, and I have to agree with Lightborn 100%. They were initially more there to be married to my mother. Being a father to me and my sister was secondary. It wasn't a priority, because when I think about it, discrepancy outside of my sister's dad, he doesn't have any more kids, so this was their marriage, their first marriage, young people marriage, and I was just the kid that was already there. So my sister was affected by their divorce and moving on, what have you. I wasn't, because guess what? He was my stepdad, but he wasn't my dad. And I think even at a very young age, right, that people don't even think that kids can realize this. I think kids do, because the people give it off. The man gives that off to the kid. You would know that, hey, there's a difference between how you treated her and treated me. Even if they didn't try to, even if you try to do everything, there is this natural instinct of, in the animal kingdom, the mammal kingdom that we live in, there is a thing to know, that's not my litter, and I'm not of his litter type of dynamics. So then you say, looking at that, and then you go to the next, they had that step that had children, but he wasn't really engaged with those. He wasn't engaged with that child in the same capacity. He wasn't really engaged with that child. So why he was just being a husband, but he turned out to be a very horrible husband and father in the most part. But then I will say this, as an observer, as a kid who could look and watch, well, I feel sorry for him as a man I am now, because I realized it was the dynamics of his family that made him the man he became. And that is you may not, most people don't get to this kind of self-actualization in life where they can look and see at the things that people may have hurt them, how they may have hurt them, things they may have did to them, that they can look and see, wow, that person really did what they did to me, or what they did to my family, or what they did to my mother, whatever that happened, was only because they had something really wrong with them. They didn't even really know what they was doing to us. Because it was like a learned behavior. Do this and continue this. And then the last stepfather, I'm still close with the siblings because he was absolutely a father. He was a father to his other children. He might not even been that good of a husband or boyfriend, whatever he was, but he was a pretty good father. And he had some old fashioned values. He was a working man, so he wasn't an intellectual. He was a street man who did what he did from the street. But I would say this: he loved kids. He had a love because he already loved his own kids, so he definitely was gonna love us in the same capacity. And to that point, so thinking of those different dynamics, but I would say all of that didn't mean nothing to me because the underline for me was, oh, I have a father, right? So I wasn't looking for them to feel anything. I wasn't looking for them to make me feel better. I wasn't lost and there was never a moment for me to ever be mad at them, upset with them. Oh, and I even bring in, before I go, let me bring in probably more important figure, one figure that was a boyfriend who was a father. He was a father. He had been a father, and he was probably the most, as I would say, the most influential of ethics and morals, despite maybe being ethics and morals. I don't know. Let me explain. He presented and showed as what should be done with child. He had those because he was a father already. He had kids. He had all those things. He also had a wife. So in the idea of what he presented to us as children was excellent. But under the premise of what he presented to us was, the question was, what was it flawed because where it came from? But it was all good values. And I can think of those values now and think of, the respect I have for him and who he was, despite the circumstance of what it was. And I think I even have more of an understanding of that being a man now to understand how a man could be in that disposition. And that's another crazy scenario that I know we have some people coming there, they'll ride me up out of here. How could you say that he was a good man and he was the old Martin Luther King story? How could he be a good man if he was a good man? He was good to us. He was helping us. He was making us survive. He wasn't neglecting his family doing it. He was just, we know that look, if you don't know history, there is a time in America that there were black men who had multiple families. And he took care of all of those families. I know factually because my grandfather was one of them. He had 3 families. He took care of everybody. But he had 3 families. Maybe not on paper or whatever, but he had 3 families. That is a cultural type of thing. And then again, if you listening as we live on, there's transgenerational things that become acceptable in your life, right? So the idea is, how does my mother accept being with a married man? Her experience was, look at her own father. So you begin to trickle this thing. So I tell people, we have to let go of all the insecurity and feel bad and this person is this and that person is that. Because once you become fully self-actualized of understanding life and how things operate, none of that stuff really matters. You take what good was from all of those things, and you also look at what was bad and say, let me understand why it's bad, because it wasn't about me. That's where a lot of people feel the bad things that happened to them had something to do with them, and then they take it in. And we see this with a lot of kids who are in bad situations with stepdads and are feeling like, oh, my dad is not here because he doesn't love me. That's a million reasons why your dad could not be here. But you got to find out that reason. And sometimes it doesn't work in an easy way that we want it to work. So I say, I'm saying all this to say and wrapping it up, hopefully in a nice little package, that the influence on children based on father figures is strong. And depending on where they understand, like for myself, I had a father. I always knew I had a father. I always knew that he loved me. Even if I didn't know. I had made in my mind that he loved me. Because I had no reason to think that he didn't. My mother never dropped larceny on him and never said anything there. Because she couldn't. They was teenagers. The most she could say is we got pregnant. And then everything got separated. So what do I get? Where do I get the negative or any ill feelings to have towards him ever in life? I got what I needed. Eventually he paid child support. And then eventually as the time came, I got older, I began to go and visit, spend time with him, my family. This is how I ended up in Philadelphia in the first place. Just how I end up back here. And people keep saying, you always keep coming back. Why can't you just stay in Florida? Why? Because I have some root here that I want to be under that tree. It's a root. I want to be under that tree. And I love Florida. I love all these other places. All the places I have stepdad, Jacksonville, blah, 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 all over. But it's the fruit of where I come from that I want to be close to. And that where it ends up being. Again, here's a great example of this. I was a place my father came to where I was at as a grown man. That built on our relationship. Because now I had family in a place where I didn't have family. And then we was family together. It's those little things. And, this story could be completely different because I could have had a negative approach. I could have felt entitled. I could have felt all these things. And the relationship we wouldn't have right now. I'll still be a bitter kid, still being as a grown man, being a bitter kid about something that I don't understand that happened between kids, but adults who was managing it. Because there was some managing between my grandfather and my grandmother, my mother's father and my dad's mother. There was some that we know nothing about or whatever happened because they were kids. Consent, you have to remember these things. We make it like it's light, but we forget that every story is not as simple as we make it seem, and we have to really evaluate it. So there's some cut and dry story, but a lot of them they like lettuce. They got many layers and layers. They pull the lettuce out. You want to get some more lettuce? Pull it. Look, they about to get me all.
Hey, thank you for sharing, Dr. Ron. I appreciate that.
This is real. And I say to people, if you can't be real, based on, and again, somebody could say, hey, that ain't how none of it happened, but that's how my interpretation of how it happened, from my view of the kid I was to the man adult I am now. If there's some different views of it, you can come and tell me, could, but it's not going to change how. I would say this, I wouldn't want to change any of it because all of the things I talked about, I see the positive in them and they made me the positive person I am today. So you want to change something, great. Change it, make it different. But I would say that there's not a negative product from any of the experiences I've had, all of them, even the bad ones, because I understand them at this point. And I say to you, you have to talk to your children. You have to share the truth of what is what it is. I think Lightborn is one of the people I think that has this thing. He's always telling his truth or the truth or a truth, like it or not, right? And many people don't like that. That's uncomfortable. Many people would be comfortable with not talking about it, not making up my own assumption of what happened and living with that. But that still leaves you with this unturned page in a book that you keep flipping over and saying, I finished the book, but there's a couple pages I didn't read. And they are the major pages that affect how you live today. So we have to do it. I suggest, hey, this Father's Day, you get an opportunity, call your dad, girls and boys and men and women, call your dad. Ask him, hey, tell me something that I don't already know about you? Tell me something I don't already know about you, or something that you would never believe to want to tell me. Those are great things. And you will find out it may start a whirlwind of communication and a newfound and I say this even for people who are very close to their dads. Like I grew up with him, he lived in the house. There's some things about him he just never told you. He just never said. Everything sometimes people will take a negative. When I'm saying stuff, I'm thinking of people taking a negative view of it. And I'm saying it's not negative. It's empowering. It can be empowering to you and them.
Well, that should work both ways, because I think a lot of us miss the opportunity to really survey our fathers, and most importantly, survey ourselves. And so it's a great time to ask your fathers, give me some pros and cons about myself.
Absolutely.
Because most people want to hear all the pros, but I'm like, no, I want to hear the truth about myself. And so give me some pros and cons about myself, because you may have parents who leave here withholding the information that you may need to hear to improve yourself. And so never really.
Oh, say that part again. Say that part again. Say it again. Say it again.
Withholding some information that you would really need to hear. And so if they leave you withholding that information, then you spend the next 20, 30 years of your life trying to find something you could have just accomplished or hear within a conversation that you really needed to hear. And so my mom, and she was notorious for that. My dad too, but I think parents come with a certain level of wisdom that they can tell you how they feel about you without insulting you. Well, my dad, he kind of insulted me because he told me one day he hoped my head not big for nothing. And that's the maddest I ever seen him got. He wasn't really, because he even took his anger and turned it into a moment of humor. And that was his way of lashing out at me. He didn't say it bitterly or whatever case may be. He was like, son, I hope your head not big for nothing. So I don't know what I may have done that day. But, as time grew on, he got to see that my head really wasn't big for nothing. So, but that was one of the moments I remember. But yeah, if you can take the time, ask your parents some real questions about yourself. Not about them, ask about yourself. Because I think the greatest fear we have is not finding out things about our parents, but mostly finding things about ourselves that we just don't have the guts to hear.
Yeah, I listen. That word, you may not realize, and I think that light burn hit around here. You will ask them about yourself, but really you're asking that because you don't want to ask about yourself, right? And you want to compare notes about what they tell. Like Tupac said, you want to see a part of yourself that wasn't never shady, right? That lyric is so zeroed in my brain because yes, kids are very innocent initially, but they grow to be adults and have things that are not innocent anymore. And they begin to, do you want to find out, is this me? Or is this my history? Is this my family genetics? Is this, or do I need to work on something on myself? These things are important. So let's put it out there and let's get it together. Listen, again, we went over a little bit. It's okay because we started a little bit late, but I want to say, happy Father's Day to all the fathers, father figures, people who are going to be, who even happy Father's Day to those people who stand in the gaps as fathers. And it's important that, we acknowledge that and make point to it because many times often we relate that children are only raised by two parents, but children are raised by the village, and the village includes multiple men who can be part of that father figure community. So I just throw that in there and recognize I still stay steadfast that, and I just have to say, Father's Day is for fathers, Mother's Day is for mothers. You don't need to be a mother and a father on Father's Day. You don't need to be a mother and a father on Mother's Day. just let the people have their day, or the people that has did the role, who did the role, because that's what we discount. There are people who did the role as fathers. They may not be the biological, but they did some roles, and you should more likely acknowledge them than acknowledging yourself as a father on that day, because you already got a day. You got enough work to be a mother than to have to be a father. Now I know that's going to spark some controversy somewhere. Probably somebody be telling me I did all of it, but there's some things, and there might be a teacher at school. There's somebody, some male somewhere, who's been a father figure to your child, one way or another. I know it. There's unless you live in the Amazon where all the women is, your child will have any male father figure. But if they live in the rest of the world, there'll be this man somewhere, some other how, to be a figure to give them some guidance and teaching that they need. Well, with that being said, I just want to go ahead and acknowledge some of our sponsors before we get out here with this chant. So, we have our main sponsor as always, JAG Attorney at Law, Miami-Dade, Broward, West Palm Beach. If you are looking for a lawyer to, service you, and I'm telling you, this man, hey, I'm gonna tell you, this man good, because I just recently was checking out one of his cases, and he got the case dismissed just by him coming on the case. So I know he must be doing something, because he just got on the case, got the case dismissed. So I know JAG Attorney at Law. If you're trying to get in touch with him, you can reach him at JAG Attorney at Law, Johnny A. Gaspar Esquire, j.gaspar@jag1law.com. You can catch him at his phone number is 305-827-8087, or you can hit him on his website, jag1law.com. One of our key sponsors here at the Fatherhood Think Tank. I know that this guy he was trying to get on. He probably was over there in the other thing. Again, I apologize for whatever happened. I got to make sure that doesn't happen. But we want to send a shout out to the Zeta Chi Q's Fort Lauderdale chapter of Omega Psi Phi, our partners through the Fatherhood Initiative. Always willing to lend a hand and provide fatherhood awareness in the Broward County area. So definitely our partnership with them through our Fatherhood Initiative. We also want to recognize our Zeta Xi Nu chapter of Lagos, Nigeria Q's, another partner through a Fatherhood Initiative, spreading this fatherhood internationally in Lagos, Nigeria. So we have this same kind of working all over the country. So that we were not too shabby over here at the Fatherhood Think Tank. We don't just operate like we used to operate in one little place over there in Carter Park. We used to operate one little spot. Now we try. Then, Mama, we moving up. We gonna get international now, Mama. So there we go. And then we have our other chapter through our Fatherhood Initiative, Omega Landa in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the Philly Q's, with our final partnership of fatherhood and mentoring through Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. We have, again, I can't enough say thanking you guys for being here. If you guys wasn't here to be, I don't know where we would even be. But if you can get in touch with us and you need some services, you want to get some help, there is a place to reach out to. There's the Fatherhood Call Center, a help line for dads, 1-877-4-411. That's 1-877-432-3411. And that's put on by the National Responsible Fatherhood Clearinghouse and Fathers Incorporated. So when you're looking for when you're looking for a spot, looking for a place to be, that is definitely somewhere that can help you with resources and nationwide. All right. With that being said, I want to thank you guys for being here. And when we do that, we like to sign off with our inspirational chant that helps us get ready to live the rest of our week until we meet again. So, Father, you repeat after me. I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I
I
am.
am.
I am a man of honor.
I am.
I am a man of honor.
I am.
I
I
am.
am.
I am.
I
I
am.
am.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am.
I am a man of respect.
I am.
I am a man of respect.
Fathers, I say that I am.
I am.
Fathers, I say that you are.
You are.
Fathers, I say that we are.
We are.
Championship. Yes. Oh, look at that. We want to thank everybody for joining us. Oh, look at that. We got a local Margot, you just came on. Apologize, just got here. Go back and rewatch it. Share it. Share the show to somebody. This was a good one to share with fathers. So if you can go back, share it with them. Let them see it. Like, share, subscribe. We want to try to, as much as possible, start to really work on our subscription. Not our money subscription, but the opportunity for people to see it and get parts of it. So we're going to be, we're really going to go on a hard push. We're going to use our partners, our fraternity partners, to get them to push it out to their different states that they are in. So we're looking at doing that upcoming. So one day we might come on here. You might not really be able to get on if you don't get there on time, because there won't be enough seats you won't be enough seats inside the think tank. You might just have to watch it on our YouTube pages. My YouTube page or Fatherhood Think Tank YouTube page. So that's on Facebook and on YouTube. That's the name. My Facebook page, my YouTube page, and then we have a Fatherhood YouTube page and a Fatherhood Facebook page. So look for those groups in there, and we'll see you all here next week. Fatherhood Think Tank will be back with another 60 to 90 minutes of fatherhood conversations. Fathers working with fathers for fathers about father issues for bettering the fatherhood community. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all here next week at the Fatherhood Think Tank.
Hey, happy Father's Day
Good
weekend.
night, gentlemen. Happy Father's Day.